May 22nd, 2011.
This is a very dangerous situation. We cannot stress this enough. If you are in Joplin, please take cover.
Wait, stop! It's coming towards us! Wait, a little further.
An ordinary Sunday, it became the deadliest tornado of the century. But that was only the beginning. What really happened that day? To understand it, we need to go back to 2011. That year is etched onto memory as one of the deadliest, most active tornado seasons on record. Hundreds of lives lost, thousands forever marked. Meteorologists observed troubling signs, aggressive atmospheric fronts, and unusual instability. On April 27th, the atmosphere burst open, unleashing over 200 twisters from the void. What happened is it was a perfect recipe for a weather alert nightmare. They tore through the southern and eastern U.S., from Texas to Pennsylvania.
Right over top of us, guys. We're good. We're okay. There's debris.
I'm at Geneva 7th. I've still got it heading east.
For 4 days, a storm of biblical scale swept through the region. Nearly 360 tornadoes carved a path of destruction. Textbooks would later refer to it as the 2011 super outbreak.
Homes are destroyed, families' lives have been turned upside down at this point, and people are just looking for their loved ones. They're looking for family members. If you take a look here at this neighborhood, all I can say is it looks very reminiscent of what we saw last month in...
Locals barely had time to catch their breath before the dust settled. Tragedy struck again. Joplin faced the costliest tornado in modern U.S. history. How did it happen? It started like a postcard spring morning in northeast Joplin. Families gathered to celebrate graduation, laughter in the air, hugs all around, talk of futures just beginning. But there was something hidden, something no one saw unfolding. 190 miles to the west, the sky was starting to stir. Meteorologists were on high alert, watching every signal. 1:30 p.m., Tornado Watch 341 was issued. The probability, 15%. For a town that heard it all before, such warnings didn't sound like much. Nothing new, another routine alarm. People were simply exhausted from living in constant survival mode. Unfortunately, familiarity dulls our instincts. Waiting could be a risky habit. 4:00 p.m., a thunderstorm appeared on radar. It rapidly intensified into a supercell. Then it merged with another, forming a spiraling vortex thousands of feet tall. Air begins to spin like a drill. A mesocyclone locked onto Joplin like a target. 5:09 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Jasper and Newton. The countdown began.
It's looking ugly. That's the tornado siren.
5:17 p.m., the warning was updated. 28 sirens wailed across the city. Emergency alerts echoed on the radio, TV, and weather channels. This time the storm would teach a harsh lesson. Sirens aren't always heard, especially with windows closed. The hills and valleys created sound distortion, while rain and hail further masked the threat. A survey found 10% of residents, up to 5,000 people, were unaware of the warning. Of the 90% who did, 84% took the NWS alert seriously. 77% said they headed to the safest place they could find. 5:29 p.m. on meteorologists' screens. The hook echo became crystal clear. A strike was inevitable. 5:34 p.m. The tornado made landfall on Joplin's southwest side. TV networks and phone lines were going down. No way to carry calm professionalism anymore. No need. What they saw was terrifying. In moments, the studio was filled with voices of anxiety and fear. The broadcast cut out. Darkness begins to swallow the city. 5:37 p.m. Just 3 minutes later, the tornado slammed into St. John's Regional Medical Center. Inside, over 180 patients and medical staff. They had received the warning. Staff followed the protocol, but time was not on their side.
Is there anyone on the ground?
Yeah, as you just said.
Hear it? Hear it? That's a tornado.
Some on the ground right there.
Where?
Right here, just like something's going by.
Get in.
A tornado ravaged the hospital, knocking out the main power and backups. 5 patients and 1 visitor died on the spot. More followed in the days ahead. 5:39 p.m. Greenbrier Nursing Home. These would become the most harrowing minutes of a national tragedy, all within the walls of one building. It was a place for those who had already weathered their storms in life, and now it stood directly in the path of another. Inside were around 90 people, elderly residents, visitors, nurses. The staff reacted quickly to the warning, guiding everyone into the interior hallway. They did everything right. Still, nothing is ever guaranteed. The hum turned into a growl, and the growl to a roar. The building trembled and collapsed. 21 lives gone in seconds. 5:40 p.m. The tornado reaches Joplin's downtown core. Homes are wiped off the map. A security camera captured the street disappearing frame by frame. However, the storm was only gathering force, charging toward Joplin High School. Several wings of the school vanished. Surveillance footage caught the moment wind tore through the hallways, windows exploded, walls caved, and ceilings crashed down. Had graduation not been relocated to a university campus miles away, it might have been the funeral of 400 more lives. Days later, pieces of the school were found over 60 miles from the city. The nearby Franklin Technology Center, the region's vocational training hub, was also struck. Everyone inside during the impact survived by some miracle. 5:42 p.m. Nature's blind fury struck the Harmony Heights Baptist Church. Inside, over 50 congregants had taken shelter. The church's pastor was sightless, but tornadoes recognize no sanctity. They don't stop for reverence or human fragility. 3 lives were lost. Their bodies were found beneath the crumbled roof. One of them was the pastor's mother. As a symbol of faith and resilience, the church was later rebuilt. 5:43 p.m. Tornado achieved peak intensity. Winds between 155 and 224 miles per hour. EF5, the highest on the enhanced FA scale. For comparison, a Formula One car hits that speed at full throttle. But here, no track, no driver, no finish line. The storm smashed into the Hampshire Terrace apartment complex. 12 more lives were taken. Dozens more changed forever. Then, like a detonation, it hit Rangeline Road. In mere seconds, AT&T, Walmart, Pizza Hut, and Home Depot were obliterated. There was almost no way to survive in that area. Cars were wrapped around trees. Others were hurled into nearby businesses over 200 meters from the parking lot. Metal twisted like foil. In one car, they later found an empty child's car seat. The driver was never identified. 5:46 p.m. East Middle School. The roof being ripped into the sky. Windows exploded from inside pressure. Thankfully, the building was empty. 5:47 p.m. Far Strip gas station. Customers crammed into the walk-in freezer, practically saying their goodbyes. The audio captured from inside is gut-wrenching, full of sorrow, rage, courage. The entire building was leveled, but the people inside survived. When they crawled out, the streets that had once raised them were unrecognizable. What had been alive with motion and sound, now piles of brick, shredded metal, and the smell of gas in the air. 5:48 p.m. The tornado slashed across Interstate 44 at its last somber bounds. It flipped trucks like toys, left cars wrecked and scattered along the way. One eyewitness would later say it looked like a giant dropped its fists on the highway. There was a point when the disaster exited the city, but not completely, because under the rubble, voices cried for help. People were trapped. The death toll was still unknown. It was far too early to exhale. Hands were needed. 10 hospitals, doctors, everyone. So the entire city became a volunteer command center. Help poured in from neighboring states, from the north, from the south, with no orders, just human instinct. The tornado outlined a quarter of Joplin on the map. 4,000 families lost homes and years of life within them. 3,500 more homes were severely damaged. Over 1,000 people were injured. More than 500 commercial buildings were destroyed. 10 schools, 2 hospitals, dozens of churches. Total damages over $2.8 billion. But no number could account for the price of a life. Familiar voices forever silenced. 156 chairs sat empty at family tables, and the total wasn't even final. The storm kept killing even after the winds died. In the following days, a new enemy emerged: mucormycosis, a rare fungal infection spread from the drifted soil to open wounds and lungs. 18 cases, 5 more deaths. It took everything Joplin had, but fate did not break the city. It stood back up. Within 3 years, school bells rang again. The hospital reopened, and Mercy Park bloomed where ruins once lay. Only thunder, sleepless nights, old photos on shelves, and quiet memorials kept the pain alive.
You come here to Joplin, and it is just as heartbreaking and in some ways even more devastating. But obviously it is going to take years to build back. We are not going to stop until Joplin's fully back on its feet. So to all the volunteers who are helping out, one of the things that's been incredible is to see how many people from out of state have driven from as far away as Texas, nearby Illinois, people just coming here to volunteer, firefighters, ordinary citizens. It's an example of what the American spirit's all about.